I want to welcome in attorney and Republican strategist Aaron Elmore and St. Louis radio host Christopher Arps this morning. A whole lot to talk about, but we've got to talk about the story that is staring us all in the faces when we wake up. I don't know how it is in Florida and out in St. Louis, Chris, but we know that this blanket of smoke stretches as far west as Detroit and Chicago. This is lower Manhattan. And what I think is fascinating is I love working this shift because during commercial breaks, the sunrise is so beautiful. This looks like something you'd see over the Sahara Desert. That's a shot from the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island to the left, the Freedom Tower front and center there. And that, believe it or not, is the sun.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Chris, Aaron, good morning.
Yeah, I was absolutely amazed. I was absolutely amazed when I saw the pictures Allison posted on Facebook to see the city of New York, and the skyline was basically orange. St. Louis, it's not orange, but you can tell that something is going on. The sky is very hazy, but boy, that's surreal seeing an orange skyline in New York City.
Yeah, Aaron, what did you make of this?
Yeah, I certainly worry. My husband is traveling between both Philadelphia and New York right now, and I texted him very early this morning saying, please be careful, stay indoors. And you just worry about what everyone is going through, especially people with small children or those who have asthma or breathing conditions. And this is something we've really never seen before, and certainly not in our lifetime. We just want everyone to be safe and do everything they can to take precautions to make sure that they stay indoors.
Couple things, Aaron, if that's a genuine background, by the way, that is a lovely location wherever you are. I want to go to the Elmore living room. It's not a blue screen.
Sorry, I'm going to let my secret out right now. This is a background.
Oh.
I am in my very glamorous laundry room, so a little, behind the scenes, look at where I am.
Aaron, I don't think you have to be with us this morning. Looks like things are going just fine. So a couple things here. The climate hysteria on the left. Joe Biden, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweeting out basically that we've got to get climate control or climate change under control. And I think what's interesting is people out west were tweeting, people that live in, Colorado and California and states that are dealing with wildfires every single year. They're like, hey, what about us? We deal with this all the time. I worked out in California. What I think is different just for me is I can remember covering wildfires and dealing with wildfires when we lived out in California, but I never smelled the smoke. The smell, Aaron, in New York and Connecticut, where I am, yesterday was like, in the early fall when your neighbor has their first fire of the season and you smell that, you can smell the smoke, you can smell the wood burning. That's what it smelled like, and these fires are 1,000 miles away from where I live.
Yeah, it's really scary. And this smell you were talking about is one of nostalgia, and this is one of a legitimate concern. And unfortunately, people on the left, those climate crazies, they are missing an opportunity to say, hey, we are here from the government and we're actually going to do something to try to help. Instead, they're just pushing a political agenda, not worrying about their citizens or their constituents, literally just trying to say, hey, I've told you. And really, this has nothing to do with the Green New Deal or gas stoves or hybrid vehicles. It was a climate emergency, a legitimate one because of a fire. And I just hate to see never letting a good crisis go to waste on the left, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, we're looking at a live picture. We just were looking at a live picture of Lincoln Memorial National Mall in D.C. I mean, it's just unreal to see this. I know lots of schools have canceled, even in the D.C. area. People have been said, stay indoors. I was walking around yesterday seeing, a lot of people, with masks on. Back in COVID, we wore masks inside, now outside. But just the concern, too, a lot of people out there, you don't know what you're breathing in. And I think that's what a lot of people are concerned about.
And what they won't talk about, too. Look, fires are a natural occurrence. They happen. Lightning strikes trees, a spark from a cigarette, who knows? But a lot of times these fires in Canada and out west are started because of environmental policies where you can't cut back old growth,
right.
And so it basically becomes fuel for this type of thing. It's the environmentalist own policies that are creating these disasters.
Yeah, Chris, that's a really good point, by the way. That's a big issue in California. They seem to have it under control, believe it or not. I was reading about this morning, and I remember when I was there, when Arnold Schwarzenegger was governor, he allowed them to go into these forests, particularly in the high Sierras where these fires typically start, and do that sort of cut back, let nature run its course to prevent these fires.
The controlled burn that they are talking about?
And do controlled
they
burns,
don't
which are so
allow
important.
that in Canada, is to do the controlled burn.
We're thinking about people this morning, especially anybody with asthma or COPD, the elderly. This is really scary. Yeah. What's interesting, and I think it's worth a debate, is all of a sudden, I really Tuesday, but yesterday in earnest, I started noticing people wearing masks. And it does make sense if you're outside just to put a mask on. But I think it's worth a debate because I can remember working in the San Joaquin Valley where the pollution is the worst in the lower 48 in California pre-COVID. No one was wearing masks when we were having, these maroon red hazardous days. COVID taught us that this is something that we can do when there's something out there that we shouldn't be breathing in. So we've got a doctor coming on. I'm curious how much it really does help us because no one was doing this before COVID. I think we just learned throughout 3 years of COVID, Aaron.
Yeah.
Rob, you have to remember that the masks during COVID were not to protect you. It was to protect your fellow citizens.
Right. I wear
And that's
mine
what
for
makes
you. Good point.
Yeah, and that's what makes me worry because we don't have a lot of great data because during the COVID pandemic, we were told so many things that turned out not to be true. So now are people that wearing masks, is it a false sense of security? Is it protecting you? So these are questions that I think it's great that you're having doctors on to let us know, because if you're out and you have to get from point A to point B, a lot of people are commuting and going to work. They want these answers. Hey, what is the best course of action for me to take to keep myself, my family, my loved ones safe?
Yeah, and doctors say if you can, just stay inside over the next few days if you are in one of the states that this is affecting.
Which, by the way, makes a lot of sense
to
me. You told me you went for a walk around the city yesterday, and I was like, what are you doing?
Well, it's because I had to see what was going on. I was curious.
You sound fine today. My voice is a little...
I was coughing. I went back and I was coughing, so probably not a good idea.
I need to have tea instead of coffee. All right, a lot more to talk about this morning. I want to talk about Chris Licht and CNN and all the presidential announcements yesterday. We'll see you both again at the top of the hour. Aaron, Chris, thank you.